Deals to order. Before we get going, I would just like to mention one item. There was, so never mind that. But I would like to thank Paul McMillan for his service on this board. He served over 12 years, and he retired recently from the board, and we'll miss him. He always had great insight into the town. Being a townie, a lot of us think we are. I've been here 45 years, I'm still a blow-in. So it's always good to have some of the old guys around so that we can know and understand the flavor of the town of Westford. So Paul, thank you for your service. Okay, so the next order of business will be minutes.
Yeah,
Joe.
a couple things for open forum.
Sure.
If anybody's here tonight for 73 Brookside Road or 270 Littleton Road, those petitions are looking to continue to the February 15th meeting. And then also tomorrow night, there is our second forum for our MVP tree management inventory species management plan. So that'll be via Zoom, held at 7 p.m. There's a link right on the town webpage. So you just go to westfordma.gov. It's the first item right at the top, the Westford Tree Invasive Species Plan. So if anybody is looking to participate, you can just go ahead, get the meeting link, and get some info on the plan, what the town's been working on since July 2021, and give your comments.
Okay.
Thank you.
Alrighty, so let's go back to minutes. First minutes we have our special meeting held on November 3rd. Any questions, concerns, updates, changes? Seeing none, can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Second set of minutes are from Wednesday, November 16th, seeing how we didn't meet in December. And the only thing that I had, Joe, was kind of for you is on line 60, that paragraph that talks about the annual reminder to the cottage owners when they open for the season. And that all got put into the decision, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I just want to be sure of that, because that's the only way we're going to be able to keep track of all that stuff. Anything else on those minutes?
Move to approve.
Can I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so the next item, 73 Brookside Road, and the applicant has requested a continuance without discussion to February 15th, 2023.
So, Mr. Chair, would you be appointing someone to be able to vote to make it 5?
Yes, David, would you vote on that one for me?
Sure.
Okay, so we have a motion.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So Brookside Road is next month. All right, David, I'd also need you to sit on Rotten Road as well.
Okay.
Okay, can I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So just so the board and the audience is aware, this particular hearing will also be continued until next month.
Paul.
They are here tonight to kind of talk us through what they think they want to do. And the reason it's going to be continued is staff needs more time to kind of figure out exactly what should be asked for and how it should be asked as far as variances and special permits and everything else. Even though Attorney Duchesne has already made us aware of that fact, staff just wants to make sure that we're all on the same page.
So, Scott, I did have a question.
Sure.
The fact and I don't understand this, but just a clarification. Apparently, there's a lot of pinpointing back to a variance that was given in 1975, and the land was reconfigured since then. And I guess my real question is, should we get a legal opinion as to what it means? I mean, are we dealing, it sounds like as I read the material, they want to go back to that 75 decision, but when we're in 2023, we're talking about a different configuration of land. It's not clear to me one way or the other whether what essentially they're petitioning for, how does that stand in terms of the laws of the Commonwealth?
And that's partly why we're gonna listen to them tonight and move this to the next month, so that questions such as that can be answered, because I don't think we have a grasp on how this all works at this point.
Yeah, it's really for Joe. I think we really
Yep.
need clarity on that.
Yep,
Yeah.
okay.
Mr. Chair, can we have a motion to open the hearing?
Can we have a motion to open the
So
public
moved.
hearing? All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. Douglas DeShane from Finneran and Nicholson here this evening representing Wayne Legacy. Mr. Legacy is the owner of the property at 36 Groton Road. I passed out some materials which are both consistent with what I've previously filed, but I've marked some of them up, and I've also included copies of letters of support, which I'll be presenting tonight. So I just wanted to give you a copy of all this stuff so that when I'm presenting it, you can look at it if need be. So what I'd actually like to do is sort of go to the question that was just discussed about, you know, why are we here and what do we need to get? And while I am very confident at this point that we've applied for what we will be required, I do certainly respect the fact that the building inspector and town council wanted to weigh in. I'm going to start at the end of my presentation and then work my way back to the beginning, because I think it's important to understand what it is we are asking for. And again, this will be subject to verification from town council, but you know, from my perspective, this is what we're applying for. We are seeking a variance which in substance mirrors a 1975 variance granted by this board, or your predecessors on this board, but the Westford zoning board, to the Legacy family for property at the time was identified as off Millstone Hill Road. And that variance allowed for the storage of 6 commercial vehicles, at least 4 of which would not be visible from the street. And that's the variance that was granted in 1975. And I just wanted to be clear that we are asking for that exact same variance without change. Although, you know, the history on the site of the last 47 years is also telling. But again, I just want to be clear. I'm not asking for a variance to operate a business. We're only asking for a variance to allow for the storage of the 6 vehicles, which was identical to what was asked for in 1975. The only caveat here is that the building inspector has suggested, and I'm waiting to hear his final determination, that if the board were to grant the variance for the storage, you would also have to make a finding or a determination that in granting the variance, the board was also recognizing that the garage, which is on its own lot, would be the principal structure on the lot. So that's a little caveat from 75, only because it wasn't addressed, but, you know. So that's what we're asking for, very clearly. Not to operate a business, not to do anything but store the trucks there. What we're not asking for is a variance to run the business from that location. And again, we'll discuss the past history. But for today, that's the variance we're asking for. And in fact, if this board were inclined to grant the variance, I would suggest a condition of approval that it would expressly provide in that variance that no business could be operated from this site, regardless of history, just to be clear. That's what we're asking for and what we're not asking for. So with that in mind, I'd like to just give you a quick update on the history and the basis for our variance request. Actually, a very interesting and long history on this site, as some of you may know. The Legacy family provided trash removal, excavation, and snow plowing activities for both the town of Westford itself and within the town of Westford to its citizens since the 1950s. That's when Wayne's dad, Robert, first started hauling trash and plowing and everything else. And again, their biggest client at the time was, in fact, the town of Westford in that regard, including the school department and highway department. Originally, they operated their business out of a site at 16 Gassett Road. You know, from the 50s up until the 70s, they operated out of 16 Gassett Road. Also a residential district, as you know, in town. However, in the early to mid-70s, the Legacys bought the land on Groton Road, which is the subject of this variance, which at the time was a mink farm. It was a big mink farm there when Wayne's dad bought the property. And the purpose for buying that property was to relocate out of Gassett Road. Things had gotten quite tight there. You know, the business was doing well. They didn't have much room. They were in a residential area. The neighbors were a little, you know, they were starting to get grumpy about having a trash hauling company in their residential neighborhood. So even though the Legacys knew that they were grandfathered in that location as a pre-existing non-conforming use, they did recognize the fact that the town and the neighbors thought it would be better if they moved. So they bought the Groton Road property. However, turns out the Groton Road property was also residentially zoned. Fortunately, the Legacys were smart enough to realize that while they were pre-existing non-conforming on Gassett, they were actually a non-conforming use on Groton Road. So they came to this board in 1975 for a variance. Now, I have no way of knowing or understanding, and I don't know if any of you do, why the variance was to store trucks. I mean, it was obvious the Legacys were going to continue the operation of their business on the site. There's no question about it. But for some reason, the variance was just for storage of trucks. It didn't say anything more, nothing less. However, the variance was granted with some conditions. The Legacys moved, started operating their business, and continued to do so for 47 years. At no time in those 47 years did anyone ever question the operation of the Legacy business from that site. In fact, I'm sure if we dug deep enough, we could find checks from the town paying for their services, which they mailed to that location. So, you know, it's clear to me that everyone understood that that variance, although it spoke only to storage, clearly was intended to allow for the Legacys to continue their business from that site. And again, you know, there was never was that question. And in fact, in 1982, the Legacys came in to expand their variance to allow for the storage of like 10 or 12 trucks. However, the board denied that variance. But they made a very telling statement in their denial in which they said, sorry, I gotta read it from the variance, so I make sure I get it correct. So the variance, in denying the variance, here it is, there was a statement that said that the board, while the Legacies have had the benefit of establishing and operating a business on that parcel, the board did not feel justified in allowing them to expand their business in 1982, and they denied the variance. But the reason why I think it's important is clearly the board recognized that there was an operation of a business that had been going on since 75 to 82, and they felt the Legacies were lucky to get that variance, but they weren't going to allow for an enlargement of the business. But again, the whole point there, gentlemen, is there's no question that, you know, everyone knew that that variance in essence allowed the Legacies to operate their business, which they did for 47 years. I do know the neighbors in that time, one particular neighbor did have a couple of complaints about what was going on the site. There was an instance where a truck belonging to a different business was stored there. They reported it to the business, the building inspector, the truck was removed. Wayne had let a gentleman who did welding business use one of the bays in the garage for a while. The neighbors reported that, and he was told to cease and desist because he did not have a variance to allow for that business. And at one time, I think Mr. Legacy was screening some loam, and again, that there was a complaint made, and the building inspector had them stop because, again, there was no variance to do a loam operation in a residential zone. The only thing that the town understood and the Legacies understood was that they had the variance to operate, you know, their trash and plowing and excavation work. So, Mr. Legacy now has a new site in Groton, in which he can operate his business, you know, the business part of the thing. However, he still has a need and the ability to store the vehicles and utilize the garage at 36 Groton Road site. However, he has pledged to no longer operate in any way, shape, or form out of that site, or to store materials there. That's all been moved and is in the process of being moved to Groton. However, we are, again, seeking that variance just to store vehicles. Now, why are we here? You know, we had the variance. They stored the trucks around the garage, and, you know, garage was, the permit was valid. Why are we here now? Well, as it turns out, unknowingly, the Legacy family did some land swap between, you know, these 4 lots that they owned. You know, there was three family house lots, and then the 2 lots where the garage and the, you know, the trucking activity occurred. And they wanted to swap some land between the lots. And as some of you may know, Mr. Legacy recarved out those parcels so that he could sell his home as well. It was determined by the building inspector, I assume with town council's import, that when you have a variance that applies to a particular lot, if you change that lot at all, guess what? You've undermined your variance. So, you know, although this just came to light in this past year or so, the truth is that in 1977 or 78, the Legacy swapped some land between their, what was Wayne's house and his brother's lot next door. And, you know, no one ever said, oh boy, your variance is wrong. So anyways, we're here because of a determination that because Mr. Legacy changed the lots on which the variance applied, that the variance no longer was applicable. Now, that in itself raises some real interesting questions, because if you look at the 1975 variance, it says that it applies to lots on Millstone Hill. That's all. It doesn't say these 3 lots or these 5 in total or anything else. And so, you know, I questioned whether, well, if it didn't apply to the house lots and they changed those, why would it undermine the variance, all right? But it, to be honest with you, gentlemen, it just got too complicated because no one could figure out which lots the variance applied to. And everybody kind of said, you know what? It applied to all the Legacy lots. That's, you know, that's what it was. They just said, hey, we want a variance for our lots. So we're here to seek a new variance. Now, one of the plans I have given you here, I marked it up. The yellow line shows the entirety of the Legacy lots back in 1975. You can see they had the house lot here on Groton, they had Wayne's house lot here, they had the garage lot, they had a lot adjacent to the garage, which in fact is the subject of this variance, and they also owned the house lot up here. That was Wayne's other brother, lived up there, Gary. So I'm assuming that the variance applied to all of those lots, and we're accepting of the fact that we did change the lot lines here, so our variance was voided. But I also want to point out that we're here to specifically ask for the variance to apply only to these two lots, which in fact is the exact same area that the activity has always occurred on. There was never any truck storage on the house lots or anywhere else. It was all right here, and that's where we want to continue to do it. No change. Okay, so that's the whole deal of where we want this lot to be. And again, you know, hard figuring out in 1975 what people were thinking or what they were, because it's not in writing. So we all have to just make safe assumptions and go from there, and that's what we've done. So we are seeking a variance to apply to a smaller lot, although it's technically the same area that, you know, the Legacy's have already operated on. In 1975, the board concluded that the site was well suited, that it was well screened by trees and buffer, that there were no close neighbors, and a very small possibility of anyone locating close to the site. Interesting enough, I would propose that that is still all true today. And I've given you a couple of plans that I, you know, drew on. This is a picture of the surrounding neighborhood. Okay, and here's the garage lot and the lot next to it. This is the way I got it from the assessor. So, you know, this is the lot we're talking about now. The only new homes that have been added to this general neighborhood since 1975 are, and you might recall, there was a home here at the corner of Millstone Drive, or Millstone Hill Road and Route 40. That house was taken down and rebuilt right next to it, and there was one new lot added right there on Millstone Hill Road.
Which number lot is that, Doug?
34-14-2. It
Yep,
says
okay.
lot 3.
Yep,
That is a new home,
yep.
okay? Other than that, the houses across Route 40, the house here, which was one of Wayne's brother's homes, Wayne's home, Wayne's other brother's home, and the garage, and the Cronin home, they're all still here. So the only add to this residential neighborhood was this one lot. And that lot is almost 350 feet away from this garage, heavily wooded, and quite frankly, as you not see in the pictures I gave you, when I was standing here at the entrance on Millstone Hill, I couldn't even see that house. You can't even see it. So again, back in '75, the board found that this was a neighborhood that was a good spot for it because it wasn't densely developed and that there was very little future, what's the word? It was unlikely that would be any significant development in the area. And in fact, that held true. One house since 1975. Recall, a lot of the other land surrounding us is MIT, okay? A longtime client of the Legacy's. They've been plowing that Millstone Hill Road and the MIT site since
Right.
you started there back
Yeah,
in the
since
70s.
Before the variance act.
So, I've also given you a copy of letters of support that we have received. And I want to point out that we have received letters of support from the folks across Groton Road that were there in 75. We've gotten letters of support from the new owner of Mr. Legacy's home, which is direct abutter. We've got a new owner of, an approval of support from the owner directly behind the garage, which was, again, Wayne's brother, although no longer. We actually have a letter of support from MIT, which is, I can tell you, amazing to get. Not that they don't support Wayne, just they don't usually get into these kinds of things. But his service to them has been so important to them that we have a letter in here from MIT expressing their support. The only neighbors, direct neighbors, that we don't have letter of support from is Mr. Cronin and the owners of that new home. They didn't seem interested one way or another. You know, they couldn't see it, they didn't hear it, so they weren't gonna sign anything, they just not interested. So, as I said, back in 75, the board concluded that it was a good place, it was well screened by trees, and now I'll get to some of the pictures I provided. They are a combination of pictures I took all around the garage, Mr. Cronin's house, Mr. Legacy's house from Route 40, entrance to the garage from Route 40. As you can see, you can't even see, you can barely see the garage in the dead of winter from Route 40. Cronin's home is significant distance away, also well wooded. And again, so I'm saying that the trees that were there in 75 are still there, maybe a little bigger. And they provide a buffer to all of the neighbors, as they did in 75, when the board concluded that it was a good spot because it wasn't overcrowded and there was very little chance of development. I would say at this point, there's no chance of development, because the only land adjacent that could be developed is the MIT land, and we're never gonna see housing on that, ever. We are seeking this variance, and as in, the board concluded in 1975, granting this variance will not derogate from the intent of the bylaw, which was the same in 1975. You did not want to cause overcrowding or detrimental impacts on residential neighborhoods. In fact, under the proposed variance, if you say that the old variance applied to 5 lots, we're actually asking for it to apply to a not much smaller area. So we're not looking to expand, we're actually looking to retract the variance. So if we weren't having significant impacts on the neighbors before, we certainly won't going forward. In fact, Mr. Legacy has cleaned up the site. He's removed, in the process of removing any materials or anything else that was stored on that site. We've been working with the Conservation Commission. They wanted to make sure we didn't do anything close to wetlands. There was a pile of dirt they want to remove. So Mr. Legacy's cleaned the site up, got rid of all the materials, no longer going to operate on the site, just wants to store the trucks. It's been a very complicated issue in terms of the legal aspects of it, but at the end of the day, I just think that this town granted the Legacys a variance in 1975 to not only store trucks, but let's be honest, they were going to operate their business out of there. They did. They serviced the town. They serviced MIT. They serviced the citizens in this area for 47 years. And now, just because they changed some lot lines, that is no longer valid. So we're just asking the board, in the interest of equity and fairness, to grant the Legacys the same variance as before, with a caveat or with a commitment from the Legacys. There will no operation out of that. There will no longer be a Legacy and Sons or Legacy office there or any operation. We just want to be able to store the trucks, use the garage. There will be no operation of the business, even though that's gone on for 47 years and everyone's been aware of it and everyone's been accepting of it. We're not asking for that anymore. We're going to take that away. We just have the parking. Now, I know Mr. Cronin, in his letter, of opposition, mentioned a lot of things, but what I found most interesting is he was mostly arguing that the Legacies have operated a business out of there. In fact, he says, believe us when we say we could not see the petitioner's garage from our home. We didn't know what a variance was or anything about zoning. In retrospect, we would not have objected to just storing a few trucks on the site and in a garage. We couldn't see through the thickly wooded area, and even if there were 2 trucks next to the road, we couldn't see or hear any noise. You go on to say, however, that this isn't what, the Legacies did, and this isn't what they're asking for now. They operated a business, and they are asking to operate a business now. We're not. I think I've made it maybe too clear. We're just asking for the variance to store the trucks. So in essence, we've satisfied Mr. Cronin's concerns. He says it right here. If it was just for storage of trucks, I would not have had a complaint. And so that's all we're asking for, is that to get that variance. Mr. Cronin does say that he believes the neighborhood has become more residential through the years. Again, with all due respect, I can't agree with that. It's one new house since 1975, and you can't see it from the site. So the neighborhood really hasn't changed at all. And but granting the variance as we've requested is going to actually make things better for the Cronins, because there will no longer be an operation of a business out of that site. With that, gentlemen, I'm happy to answer any questions. I think the only question that town council has or a building inspector has is, history aside, what are you asking for today? Because there was some confusion with my original filing that it sounded like, and maybe it did, that we were in fact looking for a variance that would just allow for the continuation of the operation as it had been. But we regrouped on that, and I came back and I sent a clarifying letter to you. I hope you read it, where I made it clear, no operation of the business, and if you want to put a condition in the variance, if you decide to grant it, Mr. Legacy's fine with that, because he's got Groton now, he's got a place, but he needs to be able to store those trucks and use that garage. I mean, you've seen the garage. It's significant. It always has been. So, Joe, am I correct that that's really what we're waiting to hear back from town council or Mr. Fontaine, is whether the variance has been worded correctly, and that I'm correct in saying the board has to, as part of, should they decide to grant it, they have to make a recognition that that garage is the principal structure. Because there's some implications by Mr. Cronin, and I guess in my discussions with the staff, that maybe the reason it didn't have any language about operating a business was because it was tied to the Legacy home. So maybe it was a accessory structure, an accessory use. But I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me, because if it was an accessory use to the house, you have to get a variance for the storage of the trucks. So, anyways, at least to date, what I've been told is if the variance for the storage of the trucks is approved, the board needs to make some kind of determination that, oh, by the way, that garage is the principal structure, because you have to have a principal structure on a lot to have an accessory use. So assuming the board in 75 assumed the Legacy house was the house and that the garage was an accessory structure, which again, I don't know, because they were on separate lots, but anyways, we can't figure out the history of the past. So, Joe, is that correct? I mean, that's really what...
By and large, yes.
I would prefer the board voted tonight, but I do respect the fact that if...
We want to ensure that what was applied for is in fact the relief that's needed for what you're looking to do, and or is there any other additional relief, as you alluded to, Mr. Chair, earlier? Is there some special permit that was overlooked, just happenstance, or is there additional variance that's needed? So we just want to ensure that all the relief that is needed for what you're looking to do is what's presented to the board, and or, you know, if there had to be some sort of re-notification for some reason, that there's adequate time to do that. So continuing to February would allow that.
So I have some questions for you. When you go to this picture here, Lot 38, when was that house built? One in the corner.
That was built at the same time as my house was built.
Lot 38.
That would have been in 1970, probably.
Okay, lot number 8 up here, your brother's house, when was that built?
That was much later. That was, I'm guessing 80, maybe 82.
Was that about the time you came in to, increase the trucks?
I don't think it was there that yet, no, it was later. It was,
So
yeah.
84?
Lot, you talking
Yeah,
about
it was
80? Okay.
82, 84 maybe, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And so the house across the Route 40, number 37, how long has that house been there?
Oh, that was one of the 4 original abutters. There was only MIT, Barbricks, which was 38 in the front, which is Cronin's now, O'Terry's, and Carcota. There was only the 4 at the time of that variance. There was no other houses in the neighborhood. They were all old homes, except for mine was the newest one there.
Okay. And how many trucks can you get in that garage?
Well, it depends on the size, of course, pickup trucks, you can get probably 8, but, big trucks, you probably get 4 or 5.
So give me a rundown of what you own for vehicles, commercial
Well,
vehicles.
right now, not that many. So I have one triaxle, I have a couple of pickup trucks, not much. I get
Front end loader.
backhoes and, excavators and stuff, which are on-site and off-site, they're not there all the time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Anyone else have any other questions?
Well, I'm kind of thinking, as this thing has historically evolved, you're talking, Dougie, about operating a business versus storing stuff. But from my recollection, isn't it the case that some guys go there in the morning and they get into a truck and they go to a job? And maybe the equipment stays on the job for 3 or 4 days and it comes back, and then somebody gets there at 7 o'clock in the morning and drives the equipment out of there and comes back at 3 o'clock. Kind of like moving vehicles like we had at the landscaping guy there on Nutting Road recently, when we went through the whole same thing about guys show up, they leave their pickup truck there, and they get in your dump truck and they go off and they come back at 3 o'clock and jump in their truck and go home. It sounds like equivalent to me, like the same thing we just did on Nutting Road, with different, variance requests and that sort of, different relief requested, but the same kind of operation where nobody's there, I don't know, mixing cement or maybe in your garage. If someone's repairing a vehicle and changing the oil, then you're in the garage and you can shut the door or you're not, but you're in the garage doing maintenance on your vehicles. And then vehicles go in and out to the job every day. So to me, that's storage and vehicles going to the job, not operating a business. Your business is operating at the site where you put the septic system in.
Well,
Right, yeah.
yeah.
Pretty much, right?
But for complete transparent, what you described is exactly what,
Goes
the whole
on.
business
Right.
is about.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
But,
exactly it.
you know,
With the trash trucks back in the
we
day, someone
do-
picked up the trash truck in the morning.
Yeah.
Went, dumped it at the end of the day, came back, did another route the next day.
Right,
But
No one
we,
was
but
dumping
we
trash
do,
on the
we do
site.
want to be honest that, the Legacy's did, quote, operate a business out of there. Their office was there,
Yeah,
their
well, it
mail
started out
came
at
there.
16.
Yeah.
And, then they had some piles of materials and some stone and, again, I don't think anyone ever suggested that what the Legacy's were doing in operating a business there, more than just coming and going to get the trucks, all right? No one ever questioned that, nor was it an issue. I mean, when the variance was granted, everyone knew it was trash pickup. And in fact, there were, at any one time, 10 to 15 giant dumpsters parked out on that property over many, many years. So again, I gotta be honest that, you know, in my reading of the law, you know, the ability to store trucks and come and go, as you mentioned, Jim, and use the garage, is a different activity than operating a business.
Yeah.
And again, we're being honest here. We all know the business operated from there. The town knew it, everyone knew it, and I honestly think when the board granted that permit to put the trucks there, they knew what was gonna happen. They knew people were gonna come and go, the office would be there. But that's neither here nor there in the sense that what we wanna make clear right now is that we truly only want the right to store. There will be no business operated there, there will be no materials, all of the things that, you know, would impact residential neighbors to this kind of place. And as the Cronins have said, you know, noise and, you know, something in that, along that lines. But, yeah, I mean, that is what will happen if the storage is granted. Trucks will be left there, they'll be come get when they're needed, they might be left on the job for a couple weeks. When they're done, they come back to storage. If they gotta fix a tire or muffler, you know, pull it in the garage. Now, there were some conditions in the 75 variance, which we're also agreeable to. One was that there was fencing to be put so that you couldn't see anything from Millstone Hill Road,
Right.
which I don't know why that was the one.
No,
I
that
would have
was-
thought you would have,
They goofed that up. That
Yeah.
was supposed to be by Cronin's.
yeah, they
And
were
we
supposed
did
to be.
put that up.
And Mr.
Yeah.
Legacy did put a fence
Yeah.
all around Mr. Cronin's property, but I guess over the years, he took it
No,
down.
he took it down, yeah, he didn't want it there.
But if, you know, if the board feels that we need to put fences somewhere, we'll do it. And again, you know, those same kinds of conditions to make sure that the neighbors don't see this. And, you know, and to be honest too, you know, just so that you know, the trucks usually enter from Millstone Hill Road, because that's a safer turn in, but they come out over the frontage on Groton Road, because if any of you have ever tried to get out under Route 40 from Millstone Hill, you can't. It's very dangerous. You wouldn't want to do it.
I was gonna say, it doesn't look like you have enough room to do that, is there? Or is it just?
But on Groton Road?
Yeah.
Now, the existing driveway's there, and there's
Yeah.
actually frontage on Groton Road.
Yeah,
It looks like they
it's
go over the other
usually a
person's
one-way
property, that's all. It's just.
What's that?
It looks like they go over somebody else's property, to get there. It's just the way it was done, is that point, you know
Oh,
what I mean?
no.
yeah. Well, actually, if you look, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's what
But-
essentially what was done with the A&R. You can kind of see it on the screen. This little triangle right here went to what's.
Yeah, see, when we reconfigured the lot for Mr. Legacy's home, you can see we squared that off so that we have a full 50 feet.
Oh, okay.
So that
It
driveway is
used to
on.
clip
it's on
over
Groton.
Mr. Legacy's lot, right.
Yeah.
But with separate ownership, we had to make sure that moved. So, in fact, I believe that lot qualifies as a hammerhead.
I was gonna say, is that a hammerhead? Yeah, that's a.
Because it has the 50 feet on Groton Road, and, boy, it's got 200 on, or like, almost 200 on Millstone, too.
That's a good-sized lot.
Well, it's now gonna, you know, it's, I can't read that from here, I'm sorry. Yep, the lot is,
That's lot Y, 132,040 square feet.
Yeah.
yeah,
What is it?
132,040 square feet.
yeah, so 3 acres.
3 acres, yeah.
But it is still the same property that
Right.
was, you know,
Exactly.
where the garage and the trucks were stored way back when. It was just that there were 3 other lots. There was the 2 house lots on Groton and the brother's house lot up there.
What year was the garage built?
It was in 75, when the variance was issued.
It's good. Would you need to store dumpsters there?
Yeah, we had dumpsters there, yeah, because we did, they took care of the town, you know, we had all the town buildings, all the schools. Yeah, and that was for a lot of years. Oh, I've been here for 73. And Jim's been here longer than me.
By a couple, by a couple.
I'm gonna tell anybody how old he is.
By a couple.
Okay, anybody else have any questions? Have you thought of a different use for the building?
No, not really. I know there was some interest in growing mushrooms on it at one time. It didn't pan out up to this point.
Well, the good news is, I guess, the way these lots were reconfigured, that garage lot is a fully conforming house lot. So at some point, someone could either convert the garage into a home. You know, it's got its own well, it's got its own septic system, it's, you know, it's all self-sufficient in that regard. Or someone could build a house and have the nicest garage, from my
Biggest
perspective, an awesome garage. But in the meantime, until, you know,
I'm car collector.
until somebody wants to do that, or Wayne decides to build another house and live in Westford,
Like I said, the
he's
garage,
just
I
gonna
could probably
continue to use it.
get a corner of it and put a nice place right there. It's plenty big enough, that's for sure.
It is, yeah.
How many square feet is that building, do you know?
42 by 80. 16-foot ceilings.
Yeah, it's a big building, big building.
But however, you can note that except for, you know, if you go up Millstone and you look right at it, none of the other neighbors can really see it except the ones right behind us, and we have a letter of support from them. And even the Cronas have admitted in their letter, they really can't see it.
All right, well, if there's nothing else from the board,
Ask anything from the audience?
anybody in the audience to speak in favor or of this proposal? Anybody to speak in opposition to this proposal? Seeing none, we will wait from a determination from the powers that be. See you here next week with hopefully some answers. And make a decision, one way or another.
Gentlemen, thank you for your time. I
Yes,
know I
thank you.
was a little
Do we get a
close
motion?
tonight, but appreciate your time.
Can we have a motion to continue this to February 15th?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right,
Thank you.
okay. The next public hearing is 270 Littleton Road, Unit 31, and the applicant has requested to delay the opening of the public hearing until February 15th, 2023.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, so that one's pushed off.
And who did you want, I guess, sitting on that, Mr. Chair, for voting? Or do you want it 4-0, or do you want it 5-0? I don't know which.
Make it 4-0 at this point. I'll set, Dan, we're gonna sit you on the next one for West Street.
Okay.
Okay, so the next item up is 33 West Street. Come on up. And can I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. So we're looking for a special permit to allow for a home occupation, a sound studio in this case, in an RA zoning district. And variances to allow for more than one person that's not an inhabitant of the dwelling to conduct use on the site, 3, and to allow for 3 additional parking spaces.
So, the idea in my head is I have.
Can we have your name for the record,
Oh,
please?
sorry. I'm John Propoli. Refer to me as Jack, please. But yeah, this is the first time I've ever done something like this, so please bear with me.
Sure.
But so the reason why I want more than just myself there doing the thing is I'm the only person who lives in the house, and I have 3 other people that work with me in this business as I'm trying to put it together. I have a sound engineer, I have a videographer and a graphic designer. That's one person, and I have a finance person. And in order to do the recording, I need the sound engineer to be able to come in and hang out with the person that is making music in the basement. And the reason why I would want more packing on the property is so that I could have people come in, pack, and then go into the basement and record music. And that's more or less the whole kit and the caboodle right there. That's like the whole thing. I just want to make music in my basement.
Somewhere in here, you said you had 5 partners, or 5 of you?
So I recently lost one of the partners, and so now it's just me, the sound engineer, the videographer, graphic designer, and the financial person. She's an accountant. It's my sister.
So is that 4?
Yes, 4. It was 5 until like last week, the week before, and then I replaced this person with somebody else, and then their role got put into a larger role, so it's only 4 partners now, as of 2 days ago.
Okay.
Are they there on a regular daily basis, or?
No, not right now, but when I get this going, it's whenever I have a client, it's gonna be just the me, the client, and the sound engineer. So there's just those 2 in the basement making music, and me there supervising stuff.
Like
And
one of your partners will be there with the band,
exactly.
and the other partners are,
Off doing their own
Remote,
thing.
remote.
If, for example, right, if we want to do make a music video and record 3 songs for an album in one day, then the videographer would be there and the sound engineer would be there at the same time. But it's trying to keep it simple. So most of the time with the videographer, for example, I would just go to a different place to do that. But with the sound engineering, the reason why I want it in the house is so that I could build a booth in the house and have this done on property, so I don't have to go anywhere else to do the sound booth. Because in order to do this properly, having a sound booth that is compressing all the sound and having it in one little spot, rather than getting another spot and paying all the money to rent out a studio space and all that kind of stuff. So I have a basement, so might as well see if I could get a permit to build a thing in the basement to make music.
but so you'd have, when you're actively doing whatever you call it, a gig, you'd have your video guy there, your sound guy, and then some musicians.
Yeah.
How many musicians?
Musicians, it depends. If it's a 5-piece group and we're tracking only vocals and guitar in one day, then there's 2 musicians and the sound engineer. If it is a 5-piece
The video guy.
video guy, if we are tracking video that day, then he's there. If we're not tracking video that day, he's not there. It's not something it's not like a consistent, I know exactly who's gonna be there every day, except for when I schedule it. When I schedule it, I know who everybody is, but I also haven't scheduled anything yet because I don't have any permits. So this is all theoretical right now. Until I have permits, I can't really move forward. And that's kind of, we've been in a holding pattern for the past couple of months as to what we're doing with the business because I have permits to go forward with the business.
How many clients do you potentially have?
Right now, I have like 2 or 3 different solo artists that I could be working with. I have a band that I know that I want to be working with. I have my own band that I want to be working with. So I would say 5 or 6 right now, but I haven't really done a lot of the networking and all that kind of stuff because I'm kind of doing the networking, but it's up in the air because you can't say, let's do this right now when there's all these other places that are doing the stuff if you don't have the place yet. No, but I have a bunch of people that I'm potentially working with because I'm in scenes and talking to people. I'm part of my sound engineer is a part of hip hop scenes. I'm part of metal scenes and jam band like hippie scenes and folk and all these other kinds of music. And I work with people that are all these different genres of thing. It's I have people that are potentials, but I don't have any set clients right now. And by the time that we're actually built and stuff like that, I project to have maybe 4 or 5 clients at the start, but I don't know yet. It's all speculation until I can move forward.
Sounds like you're doing this now, though, right?
I'm talking to people.
I mean, are you doing it at another location?
No,
No.
I'm just talking. I have a sound engineer that works on other studios in Rhode Island and some in Boston. I have a videographer who makes his own movies and all that kind of stuff. I have my sister who does finances for a landscaping company in Waltham, and we all had been talking about this kind of stuff, forming an LLC, talking to lawyers and all that kind of stuff. But I've kind of put a lot of it on hold because in order for me to do it out of my house, I need a permit. And rather than looking into purchasing commercial property or renting out commercial property and all that kind of stuff because of the amount of money that it would cost to do all that kind of stuff, I'm like, all right. Let's try to get a permit so we can do it out of the house. And then if we can't do it out of the house, then start looking into commercial property to do it that way.
So is this a full-time for you, or is this a part-time thing? You have another job, or is this something?
Oh, this is kind of, it's part-time, but it's not part-time. You know, like it's part-time in the way that it's not going to be happening every single day. But it's full-time in the way that I don't have any other jobs. You know, I'm a trust fund kid, so all my money comes from a trust. So and I'm trying to build a business so that I'm not just like sitting on this money. I'm trying to do something that can make its own money on top of, I'm in this position.
So you said the area would be soundproofed?
Yeah.
So I guess I envision that if you have a rock band come in there, it wouldn't be able to hear it in the neighborhood then? I guess
Not
that,
really.
no.
It would be a 4x6 booth in the basement filled with insulation, and there's a window that allows it to see the sound engineer who's on a laptop with the mixer in the laptop that's able to mix and master, not mix and master, but record the sound and then mix and master it later on his own time. But it's all just sitting and recording there. Generally the idea is a 4x6 booth that is filled with insulation that soundproofs it, so you can't really hear outside the booth.
So who's in this
How do you
booth?
put a whole band in there?
The booth is the band, and it's either, we're not gonna have the whole 5-piece in the booth at the time. Like, for example, if you have a 5-piece band.
That's like big enough for one person to be in.
4 by 6.
Yeah.
So, in this booth, there would be a drum kit, and then we move the drum kit out, and then you put in a person with a guitar, and then you bring that person out, and then you bring in the person with the vocals. So it's tracking all these things separately.
Okay.
So is it similar to what you see in the movies, like, you know how you see that you're doing a recording and there's one person in that area there?
Yes,
Okay.
it's exactly that. It's the big window, and there's a box, and there's a person in the box that's making the music, and you're tracking each of the tracks separately.
Then you put it all together.
Exactly.
So they'd be there at the same time or different times? or-
I would say different times. You know, if we can do it all in one day, then we do it all in one day. But that's our entire day is that one client. So in that entire day, we track drums and we track. I'm currently in the studio in Waltham making my own album right now, and it takes 6-7 hours to record 5 songs, and that's nowhere near done yet. I've had like 4 sessions just so far in pre-recording sessions where I do drums and bass and guitar, and each of these are recorded separately, and each time that it's recorded, that takes about 30 minutes to an hour because you're doing it and then you're doing it again, and then you're doing it again, and then you're doing it again, and you're doing it again. So one client could take an entire day of 6, 7, 8 hours.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else have any questions?
My main concern is how many vehicles are gonna be in this property at one time?
See, I wouldn't expect more than like 3 or 4 from the people that are coming in. And even in that case, I can encourage people to carpool, so it's only like 1 or 2. You know, because I already have, like, people don't need to be bringing their own instruments. I have a kit, a drum kit. I have a bass guitar. I have an electric guitar. I have all the different instruments that they need, like the basics of the instruments that are required. I already have it all on the property. So I don't need anybody to bring in extra stuff. So it could be like a maximum of 5 cars if it's a 5-piece and they need everyone there. But I have space in my driveway for that. You know, like there isn't, it's not using any street parking. It's just using what I already have in my driveway.
Well, what's in your
I thought there
driveway
was
now?
something about
You got a bunch
grass
of
there.
trucks there now. What's in your driveway now?
I have so I have a pickup truck that is
Box
owned-
truck of something?
What?
You have a big box truck there or something?
No.
Is that,
I have, there was a carpenter's trailer that was there like last week, but that was a friend of, I have a bunch of traveling friends, so if a friend needs a place to pack their traveling rig for like a couple of days to a week, I let a friend like pack on my lawn, and they just pack here for a week and then go on your merry way. And he was here for like, I don't know, 5 days and left. But right now I have,
Big white box truck was there this afternoon.
oh, yeah, that was for insulation in order for me to get the rebate from Mass Save, I need to get insulation put in that they required, and that was that white box.
There's nothing to do with music, that was a separate,
No,
okay.
nothing to do with music. There is 2 vans, 2 trucks, and my car right now. I have a friend who has her van that she needs to junk, but she was trying to hold on, have me hold on to it for her while she's moving apartments and stuff like that, because her life's all up in the air right now. But she's gonna be junking that like end of this month. I have my van that I'm in the process of fixing to sell, because I was living in a van as of last year, just driving across the country and doing all that kind of stuff. And I have a friend that stays with me on and off who's got a couple of pickup trucks. One of them that he's in the process of selling, and the other one that he recently bought and turned into a flatbed truck.
In a travel trailer?
The travel trailer was there. It's not there now. That was last week. It's not there now.
So I guess that would be the concern though for the neighborhood in general. You just listed 5 to 7 vehicles and you haven't even brought in one client or one partner or anything.
That's true.
So that would be a detriment to the neighborhood, having 7 vehicles at any given time, never mind what you're bringing into the business. That's one of my concerns with it.
For sure.
And the other concern I have is, like, say, for example, you have, the possibility is there to have a 5-piece group that's there. And all of a sudden, they wanna, all right, you're in the booth right now, well, let's go outside and practice, and they start a little jam session. There is a noise ordinance in town. So that would be my concern. 'Cause I don't think, and you don't wanna get a knock on the door from the police department saying, hey, what's going on, turn it down. So that's another concern that I have. We would need some type of reassurance on.
Well, for something like that, so I have a band that practices at my house every Sunday. And we go electric until about 7 o'clock at night. And at that point, we either go up to a meeting, because the 3 of us are involved in NA, so we go up and we participate in recovery meetings. And there's one of us that just goes home because she doesn't have anything to do with that. But when we were doing it until like 9 o'clock, because we used to do it till like 9 o'clock, we would turn it off and go acoustic at a certain point in the evening. And that's kind of how we kind of run it, And I can encourage everybody, if we can't do electric, just go acoustic. And we have all the capability of being entirely acoustic.
And to kind of piggyback on Scott's comment about the vehicles, I mean, I would like to see a plot plan of like your house, where your septic is, where your existing driveway is, before we even entertain, trying to put up a number of vehicles that you could have on the site, that you don't end up parking on your septic system.
Well, the septic system is in the backyard. When I initially sent in the plot plan, I had drawn out where the septic system is, and it's not on this plan, obviously, but the one that I initially sent in, the 12 copies that I sent in and brought in, there it is. That circle there, where it says septic.
Patio pavers, yeah.
Oh, so that's in the rear? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where that is. And the driveway, if you scroll down a little bit, is it's right there. There it is.
So do you have just one stairway going down to this basement?
2.
You have a bulkhead or a walkout?
What?
You have a bulkhead or a walkout?
I have it goes into the sunroom.
So what would be your plan if there was ever a fire while people are in the basement?
Go up through the sunroom and out the door.
But what if that staircase isn't accessible, I guess, is my question.
Then the staircase that's right there. The other one. It's a stair.
Okay, but if there's a fire on the middle stairway, how are you gonna get to the second stairway?
You go to the. What do you mean? If there's a fire on that
If
stair.
there's a fire in the basement, how are you gonna get people out safely, is my question. And you can't say, I'll just go to that stairway, because you don't know where the fire is. I'm just saying, we're talking,
There's two
Public safety
stairways
here.
and there's windows all the way around. So, like there's windows on at least on the left side. On the place where the home occupation would be, there's windows all along there. There's a big window right where that mouse was just there, like right there. There's a big window. There's a deck on the left side, so that's not viable. But there's a window right there where the mouse is right now, and there's a stairway right to the right of where the mouse is now. And there's a doorway right into the laundry room, which is leading to another stairway that goes right up into the sunroom, which has two doorways out from it.
Anybody in the audience to speak in opposition to this proposal? Can you come up to the microphone and give us your name, please?
Keith Boutet, 30 West Street. I'm just worried about noise mostly.
Okay, that's a viable concern.
Been there. I'm a blow-in too, I've been there 30 years and mess it up.
Yep, no, I
Yep,
understand.
got it.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody to speak in favor? Oh, you want to, okay, come on up. Use the big tall microphone here, please. There you go.
That looks better.
Mark Bohenko, 28 West Street. Just wondering what your hours of operation would be. Would they be in the evening, during the day?
It would be.
Is there a time restriction?
Well, that's
you
all
know,
part of it, so
yeah.
that's a good
I
question.
wrote in the thing that I sent to them. It would be 9:30 to 9:30.
Okay. I mean,
Sound good,
a
sound
lot of
bad?
us go to bed, well, I'm not getting any younger, so I go to bed around 9:30, because I get up at 5.
Yep,
So that would be kind of a concern. Not that I'm opposed to it, but noise would probably be a concern,
Yep.
especially with those hours.
sure.
It sounds to me like this is something that's kind of stretching the.
It's stretching the
and
bounds
more compatible to
of home occupation, I
a,
think.
yeah, more compatible to a commercial, piece of property, commercial, small, sounds like you don't need a big space. You wouldn't have to pay for something that was, 700 square feet. But a commercial space in a non-residential area where traffic wouldn't be a concern, parking would be probably more compatible to your people coming in and out. You're gonna have a lot of traffic there, they're gonna be parking on your lawn, they're gonna be, guests coming, it sounds like you say it's a holiday kind of atmosphere when you do this. Well, in my mind, holidays come 3 or 4 times a year, not 6 days a week, with the kind of operation seems like you're envisioning. And typically what we do in home occupations is something a lot more modest and singular than this.
Right.
Involving, larger numbers of people, larger numbers of traffic and cars and all that. We kind of typically have something that's not in this format. Historically, that's what we've done, and I just don't think this is kind of putting a square peg in a round hole. I don't think I can support it.
I would have to agree. I just think that traffic is an issue, the potential for noise is an issue, and I think those are all things that would be detrimental to the neighborhood, and I would not support it either. So, it doesn't look like you're gonna have the 5 required votes that you need. So you can do one of two things. We can vote, and you can take the results, or you can withdraw without prejudice if you think you want to come back and try this again at some point.
Sounds like it'd be best for me to withdraw that
Okay?
Okay.
and see if I can do something to assuage the concerns that are brought up. Because I understand your concerns. Your concerns make a lot of sense. And the only response that I have to these concerns is that the vehicles that are already on my property most of them are looking to be gotten rid of already. And that the sound is confined to a booth that is soundproof. so you wouldn't really be able to hear it. But on the other hand, I understand why, because, you know, sounds a little wild. Basically, of the musicians trying to make music and go a little crazy.
It actually sounded very interesting how you're describing it. But
See,
like they were
and-
saying, just, we don't think it's the right location for it.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea is awesome.
Are you new to Westford?
Yeah.
Shop around. There's places, there's little garages, there's little
Yeah.
corner of Broadway, there's old buildings that are kind of looking for something to somebody to do. You don't need a high-end, super new place that's just been put up for high rent. Maybe shop around, find some areas where commercial, there's an old garage that's not being used or whatever, much more compatible to what you want to do. Just start doing some homework in town, you might find something close by.
I think you have a great idea.
I just think the scale's too big for home occupation.
Yeah.
Because the other thing that I don't like to do is restrict you so that you don't have the chance to grow and prosper. And we would do that here for sure.
Yeah, you'd be limited.
You'd be limited, very, very limited.
Yeah, but you have to see you put money into it, and then, you know, all of a
Yeah.
sudden now.
I would rather send you away and find a better location and a different alternative than to tie your hands, because that's what we would be doing. Okay? So,
Motion or allow them to withdraw?
So moved.
That's your intent to?
That is my intent, but quick question before.
Sure,
before I go there.
sure, sorry.
If I was to come back here with just the idea of, rather than doing the recording in the basement, right, doing more of a making of merch for the bands. Because, so the ultimate concept is not just the recording. We want to be a one-stop shop. So you come to us and we can record, mix, master, make a music video, make your merchandise, and promote you on social media, as well as getting gigs. Because each of us that are part of this thing, have connections with different venues within a 100-mile radius of this place. And I've been across the country, so I know a bunch of little places all across the country that I can connect to people to. But the ultimate idea is, if I was to scale down the home occupation to much more of a specified aspect of the business, and move the recording aspect of the business to another location, would that be something that is more within the realm of what you guys in favor of with what you know of the town has?
What would that entail?
That would entail making merch in the basement, which would be a Cricut machine that makes t-shirts, the ability to have business meetings in my house in this place that is for home occupation with multiple members of the business, and discuss all the stuff that we're doing in the business.
so once again, I think you get too many parties involved. You know, there's 4 of you to start.
Yeah.
That's 3 too many. So I think regardless of what you want to do with this enterprise, I really think that it needs to go to a different venue. I just don't think that even one facet of it, you're still gonna have 4 people there for meetings, you're gonna have some kind of machine to make merchandise, you're gonna, all these things belong in a different location. If you came to us and said you wanted to bake cupcakes in your kitchen, it's a different story. I think that's the differentiation between what you're trying to do and what we give home occupation things for.
Makes sense.
Yep.
The home ox, it's usually if you provide a good or a service.
Right.
And
Well, technically, he's trying to provide a service, but in my opinion, this is just me speaking, the idea isn't bad, but you need to literally fine tune it to exactly, this is how many cars are gonna be on the property at any given time. This is the hours of operation, not to, come to us with more exact what you're gonna do. Right now, like you said, you're exploring, you're throwing stuff against the wall, seeing what sticks. Come up with a real business plan and say, this is what I wanna do. And then we may be able to do something, we may be able not to. But right now, it's just so open-ended, I personally couldn't vote for it because you're just too spread wide. So,
We'd have to condition the number of people who could
and
be there.
that's like
in
Scott
this
said,
business.
we're gonna have
We'd
to
have to pick a number.
tie your hands.
And you have this band coming in, and you don't know how many people coming in. We'd have to say 2, 3, period, that's it. And you couldn't exceed that, or you'd be in violation.
David?
That wouldn't help you.
Well, I think Scott had the right idea, is that your idea is, probably doesn't fit a home occupation, but I think you could find something in Westford that was affordable, that if it took off, you could not only start your business there, but you could grow it and prosper.
You good on social media?
I'm not, but my promoters are.
Put it out there, you're looking for a spot around here in Westford that's, you know, you want some low rent, you want a little, minimum space, you want it into a non-residential area, and anybody looking to rent a place for short money or not, not a fancy swanky place, throw it out there and see what you get for a response. You might be pleasantly surprised that you'd have a better venue than you might in your basement. Worth a shot.
So if you're looking to allow withdrawal without prejudice, we just ask that it be, cover one for the variance and then one for the special permit, so do 2 votes.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's still your intention?
Yeah.
Okay, so can we have a motion to allow for withdrawal without prejudice for the special permit for home occupation?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Can we have another, to
Allow the
withdraw
for both
without
variance
prejudice
requests.
for a variance that was applied for?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Good luck. Hope you find a spot.
You will. Keep looking. You
Oh,
will.
yeah. Yep. Against your idea.
I appreciate it.
All right.
Hope my band's not bothering.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, I didn't think so, because nobody had said anything to me, because we go pretty substantially, we're a metal band, so I'm screaming in a metal.
Okay, we have to keep going, so we can have that discussion outside for me?
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
All right.
Take care.
Take
What's
care.
that? Oh, Crocker. Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, the next thing you're gonna talk about is a commercial recreation opportunity in Westford. And I'll let Joe kinda,
Sure, I'll give a little bit of an introduction, to all the materials in your packet and what we're looking for some input from you all for. So, back a number of months ago, taking together various things that the town has heard through a number of planning processes, whether it's the master plan, the open space and recreation plan, various recreation surveys. There's been a lot of interest from the community in seeing an expansion of commercial recreation opportunities, both indoor, outdoor. Westford's a very active community, looking for year-round recreation opportunities. So we utilized the strategic planning retreat, which was back in person last September, to do a little survey work and get some input from town. So we provided, just kind of a quick overview of what commercial rec is, and asked a very short 5-minute survey. So you have the survey and the results that we received in your packet. I think it showed, generally some support for allowing additional recreation opportunities, particularly in industrial areas, so your industrial highway, which is generally confined to 110, and then some of our other industrial zoning districts, industrial A, B, and C. At the same time, we've had communication with Kimball Farm and with Neshoba Valley, and they're looking at some of their long-term planning, and as I'm sure this board is aware, anytime that they've gone and looked to do anything at their property, use variances have been utilized in the past, and there's a lot of hurdles that they've had to go through to make investments. And as they're, again, looking at long-term investment opportunities, they're looking to streamline some of their permitting processes as they look to add potentially some accessory uses and invest money over there. So we have a couple things that we're looking at, and you might see too some letters of support for these zoning bylaw changes, particularly for an overlay district over the parcels that are Kimball Farm and Neshoba, to allow for additional accessory uses at their commercial recreation operations, such as, if they wanted to have a new brew pub at, Neshoba Valley Ski. I don't think anybody would think that's necessarily a bad idea, but it would be a lot of permitting hurdles they would have to jump through currently. And the overlay would allow a more streamlined potential to allow that as an accessory use to their principal commercial recreation operation. So, looking for some general input from you all this evening. We've been working with the planning board on creating some changes to the bylaw, and we're getting input from town council now. We'll likely have, some small changes to what was in your packet. But wanted to first get your input on, as I kind of run through a list, that might be the most helpful way to do it, is how the board would feel about expanding commercial recreation into the industrial areas, and it would, again, be by special permit. So we're talking commercial highway, where it is now, and then it would be an expansion to industrial highway, industrial A, industrial B, and industrial C. We can pull up the map if we want to look at any zoning district in particular. So regardless of who is the special permit granting authority, how does the board feel generally about expanding that as an option to anybody looking for having a commercial recreation facility?
I think it's a good idea, especially along the 110 corridor, and even the other areas too, especially the two prime areas, which are Kimball's and Neshoba, because I think that we haven't seen the fallout from all these big buildings being empty. And I think that's gonna be something we're gonna have to deal with down the road. So if we could repurpose these to recreation, or like you said, something of that nature, then I think that would be a win-win for everybody. Anybody else want to comment? That's what he's looking for.
I mean, I like the 110, possibly part of Route 40. Would be the two areas I would look at.
Yeah, that's your industrial A up here. Industrial C, kind of towards the Tingsboro line around Makepeace Road. But Route 3 is right near there too. So that's where industrial C comes from. Industrial B, you have little pockets around schools, includes the millworks. So that's those industrial districts. The industrial highway is this maroon color right along 110.
So is this, just backing up, is this essentially, and you mentioned that it's easier for landowners, developers, people like Kimball's and Neshoba. Certainly changes our role in it, changes the role as a board in the process to go to the planning board, yes.
Well, it doesn't have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, there's a couple things. So that's.
It seems like it's, okay, so if I'm asking you for a T-bar, the pluses and the minuses, staying as we have it versus this, can you give me the T-bar pluses and minuses of, what's the great advantage of this versus where we're sitting tonight without it?
Sure. So right
And
now.
also easier for no hurdles for the landowner, but on the other hand, we try to control what the community's developing into. Do we want Westford to be Burlington, or do we want it to be sort of a little bit bigger Westford or Reuben or whatever? I think that's, in my head, a concern, that we give this free pass, sort of, semi-free pass for this sort of thing. Then we have, do we have sufficient control? Are we gonna have an explosion, or are we gonna have like, oh, crap, in the rearview mirror, how did that happen? We're gonna run before we walk with this. That's kind of where I'm coming
I think at least some of the pushback ought to be is I don't think we burden anybody with a lot of process for things they want to do.
from. Say that again?
I don't think we burden anyone with the type of things they want to do. And I'm thinking it's principally been Kimball's and maybe Neshoba Valley. I can't think of any hurdles we've given them. It's, I don't know if it's real or imagined.
I don't know.
It's like it's imagined. And the other thing is, I think, stepping back, I think whether you move the permitting from the zoning board to the planning board, I'm not sure, because I don't always agree with some of the things the planning board has done. I think they're, and that's personally, I think they're a little too rigid sometimes. I mean, I look at what's gone on down there, for example, at, what's the street where they sued us?
Oh, Cornerstone?
No, not Cornerstone,
Diane Lane.
yeah,
Diane Lane, yeah.
I mean, some of those houses are ginormous, and I'm not sure that's, in my mind, in the best interest of the town. I mean, we don't need another $1.5 million house. We need some housing that people can afford.
So I think what Joe is trying to get at is, there's kind of two parts to this. There's the part, if you agree in principle of this overlay district. Do you support the idea of allowing recreational uses in commercial areas? And if you do, that's great, that puts them a little further down the road. Then the second part of that is, who is gonna be the one that regulates it?
Exactly. That's where I
So
was.
it's two-part, and I think what they would like to know tonight is if in principle we support the first part, and then we can always have discussions about the second part down the road if the first part comes to fruition.
Yeah, I'm definitely for that type of overlay. And, I mean, to Dave's point, I don't think we've ever had many issues when we've had these type of petitions come before us. I mean, we've always worked with them, you know, like the pool, right? I mean, down in.
Goldfish swim
Yeah,
center,
Goldfish swim, yes. I just think we've kind of tried to help them and, you know, get them into areas like that. So I think it'd be a great idea, so. I mean, do you find that there are company or businesses out there that are looking to do something like this and they're finding issues and not doing that because of this, or is that?
Well, try to go over a couple of things. So in terms of the overlay district, so again, that would pertain to just Kimball's and just the Neshoba, their current properties, which I'm kind of circling around here. So you can see right here with Kimball's, they have property in 3 different zoning districts. So if they look to try to change the underlying zoning to, you know, one district, it could open up things in one sense and cut off development opportunities that they could have in another. So, because you can see industrial highway here, commercial highway for the first 200 feet, and then it's residentially zoned in this little pocket for however reason that happened over the years. So that limits what they can do in some sense, but also still provides opportunities in another. But again, if they want to add an accessory commercial use to what they have there, it does create some permitting issues. And then on the Neshoba side, kind of similar, they have commercial highway and residence A. If they try to just make themselves commercial highway, there's all those residences across Powers Road that could, you know, sometime down the line, if they look to have something over there that the residences may have a lot of concern about. So the overlay would just look to allow different accessory uses for those commercial recreation operations. So that's kind of the overlay. And then the other question pertains to commercial recreation, winter commercial recreation opportunities as well. Would the board be agreeable to allowing that through a special permit process, whether it's this board or a different board, but allowing that to be an option in industrial highway, because right now commercial rec is not. Somebody would have to try to come in through, say, pre-existing non-conforming use maybe, or use variance in their industrial A, industrial B, industrial C. So there's the change to change that N in the principal use table to an SB for a special permit. So is the board agreeable to that? Or, you know, again, discretion that the board could have to say yes or no, based on whether or not the petition's meeting the criteria. In places like along 110, Route 40 up here in this industrial A district here, industrial C. So those are there's kind of two questions in a way. There's the commercial, there's the overlay that pertains to Kimball's and Neshoba, and then there's those commercial rec opportunities potential in some other commercial industrial districts. Just to make the permitting more streamlined by allowing it as a special permit versus, a no in the table right now. So it could potentially kill off some opportunities.
Okay, and so,
It sounds generally like, and I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but generally that special permit option, some of those other districts could make sense. Maybe some,
So what did we do in the millworks? That's an overlay district, right?
No, I don't think so. I don't think we've done anything.
I think we did anything.
Was an overlay, was it?
I don't think we did anything.
I think there was a mill conversion,
Yeah.
For the,
and then sort of, I assume the yellow is that where the Courier used to be,
Yeah.
the warehouse.
Yeah.
So I don't think,
I'd have to go back and.
I've heard
see.
people talk about, well, they converted it to a, I guess, a recreation area
I believe
with
they
all,
came to us for multi-use purposes.
with all of these courts though, but do we, I can't
I
remember.
can't remember doing anything.
I don't think we did a
I remember
thing.
Chris coming in.
Yeah,
It was
Chris
already
came
open,
over,
yes.
And then,
And he came for us for multi-use because he had office
Yeah.
space, he had the gym.
Oh, and he had a
Actually,
restaurant.
he had
he
a
had a
restaurant,
restaurant,
yeah.
so it was.
but that has grown exponential. I mean, it's,
But that's the only thing we've done is a multi-use. That was it.
But is Courier totally out of there now?
traffic in there is.
Yeah,
So the whole thing now,
Oh, yeah.
and it's really
So how do we control stuff?
tournaments coming in there for soccer and basketball?
Oh,
There's
yeah.
tournaments there that
The gym.
I go there because my
Workout.
kids play soccer there. You can't get in and out of there on a weekend.
yeah, we used to have.
There's tons of
Yeah,
cars.
yeah.
Is it totally finished inside now, Chip?
They added another building, there's, I think, 13 basketball courts, a separate soccer field, a batting cage area, expanded another whole section.
Golf
The original building, and then he added to, he expanded to the gym.
But he's never changed the entrance, right?
No.
That's gonna be historic,
Yeah.
staying historic. The rust coming down on your head when it rains, that rust on your head is historic. But my point is, maybe not an analogy, but, we did this 5 years ago, whenever we did it. And now it's like quadrupled, and I don't know, it was all done under the auspices of the prince we allowed, and off it went. And we never came back here for, I guess maybe it came back here for more, for the additional condo units.
Right.
But the expansion of the recreational
Never
area is
came back.
doubled.
No.
I think
And
we all-
traffic has quadrupled.
Yeah, I mean, it was a building that was never gonna get used by another industrial customer, right?
No,
So,
no,
yeah, so
no,
really,
it could have been leased, but I mean, no, not,
Right, yeah.
it wouldn't be, you wouldn't want that there with the recreation right there in the adjacent building.
But you're right,
So-
it was a great repurpose of that building.
It is, it's great, and it's
It's
just,
just,
but, that's what I'm saying, Westford becomes Burlington. People come from all over New England there.
Yeah.
There was one incident there where the police grabbed a gun on a guy having a beef there. And it is heavily trafficked,
Yeah.
heavily used. Parking has been outgrown pretty much. They park along the road going in there.
Yeah, there's the pocket there.
It's really, the road going in, people are parking along there and walking, because that's how busy it is with, they do this futsal soccer, and there's 15 courts, and people every hour, and a group comes in.
I can see pickleball being big there too.
But it does, there's no restaurant there, is there?
Anyway, I don't know how, that's what I'm saying, we give, we put something in this box, and then the next thing you know, the box is tripled. Anywhere we do this, how do we manage traffic and neighborhood concerns and?
Well, that's the ST, right?
That's sort of.
That's the
Oh,
idea,
yeah.
So-
confining it to a special permit, not just making it allowed, by right or anything.
Right, so,
But
yeah.
just via special permit process.
With
where-
conditions,
So, yeah, so that's when they come to us or another board, and we say, okay, you're allowed 100 cars a day,
This many square
feet, this and that, blah, 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 just like we would with any other project, but I think what they're trying to get around is, now when you go to the table of regulations, there's a great big N, no, not allowed.
Right.
Now, if someone wants the opportunity to come and do as we want them to do with the special permit, they can. It's just, it's the same thing, we're gonna get the same crack at it, just.
Well, I think it's a great
allowed.
idea. I mean, to your point, those buildings on 110, I don't know if they're ever gonna get filled again, right?
Yeah, who knows? You
Yeah,
know,
that's
that Puma building sits down the end of Liberty Way. That's a big building sitting empty, you
Yeah,
know?
that's not gonna get filled up by Puma anymore.
No, no, I mean, there's been a couple of companies in there in my tenure, so it's, but I mean, I just think it's giving the town, an opportunity to maybe change course, but still be able to regulate what goes in.
Mm.
You know, and I think that's all we're looking to do here.
Yeah, my concern would be the regulated part.
Yep,
But we can still do that.
yep, with the special permit, we can still do that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be for an overlay district.
Who is the driver for the overlay district?
Good question.
So again, it comes from a couple different places. You know, again, the planning processes that have happened in Westford in the past, the open space and rec plan, community surveys have been done by the recreation department. And then Kimball's and Neshoba, as they've communicated with us and, you know, talking about investments that they wanna make for the long term of their operations over there, and what would their permitting paths be. So that's what this overlay, you know, given the fact that they are in multiple zoning districts right now, to change the underlying zoning could have ramifications on some of the abutting properties, particularly residential properties that are nearby.
But they have not taken any initiative to change it.
To
But
change
I'm-
the underlying zoning,
Yes.
well, they're more in favor of an overlay,
Yeah, but
in
you're-
order to, you know.
But is the
not potential
is the
costs.
Westford Recreation Committee driving this for the district? And these people have just hitched on to it because it's good for them?
So again, it's kind of two different things. So one, the overlay just pertains to Kimball's and Neshoba. Then changing the table of uses from N to SP allows it in multiple districts outside of that immediate area. So there's kind of two different things. The overlay would just govern Kimball's and Neshoba, while the table of uses change would open up the potential for other places along 110 and or Route 40, so.
I'm asking you a very specific question. Who is promoting the overlay for those properties? Who is the champion? Is it the recreation department? Is it Jeff in your office?
I don't think it can be recreation, because these are commercial for-profit enterprises. Recreation does the basketball and the Little League and da-da-da. How can it be recreation? They don't need Kimball's and Neshoba. Basically, if the recreation department wants to do a ski program, they had to go pay Neshoba
Well,
to do
but
ski
they've been
programs.
okay,
It's gotta be
maybe
the
I'm
commercial
wrong,
venture, not the
but
recreation.
I think they were promoting the need in the town for a swimming facility,
Okay,
for example.
right, right.
That was the recreation, and the recreation person, before it was a big promoter, was hired by the guy at Abbott, right, to manage the mill. I don't know if.
Hired enough, long gone.
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
what happened,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
mean, that was the genesis. And maybe I'm making it up, but at least that was my thought.
But I see a dichotomy between recreation, tax paid, and resident used recreation versus commercial people like paying to ski in the show or paying to put a new,
Yeah,
hot
but,
up in Kimball's for the fried food.
but to give you
They'll
some,
be allowed.
to give you some idea, when the old recreation director was here, the town was paying, for example, for rowing instructors, for the rowing club. I mean, and I'm not saying that's right or wrong,
Right.
but they were just doing it to promote the rowing program.
Food program, yeah.
So these surveys that we have the results for were produced by who?
So the survey was produced by our department
Okay,
in order to get feedback, again, making sure it was consistent with other surveys that were done by the recreation department and/or our open space and recreation plan, our master plan, that folks still were looking for additional recreation opportunities. You know, could be to visit something at Kimball's, it could be to, you know, go to an indoor rock climbing facility. Again, that would be a private, commercial operation.
That's my whole thing. I think, you know, I mean, Kimball's is doing fine. We helped along the way over the past many years. It's a commercial, very profitable business. Hiking trails in Westford are free and they're recreational and maybe under the guise of the recreation department. Michola's, same thing. Somebody else comes in and they want to put in a bowling alley. It's recreation, but it's for profit, commercial. It's not under the auspices of let's put another, we need more soccer fields, so let's put another field in Westford so we have more soccer, more kids can play soccer. That, I think, is a different animal to me. And I think we're optimizing, and we have a letter from Sherry Gould as well as Melissa about, yeah, it's easier for my client. It is. They're gonna have an easier for-profit road down to going forward with an overlay district. But I'm just kind of making issue, it's not recreation per se as recreation run by the Recreation Department of Westford, with all the programs they do, with road and bush and all that sort of thing. It's a for-profit commercial venture that's been in existence for a long time and has expanded and it's gonna continue to expand, it's gonna continue to make more money. And I'm not sure people come, and I'm not sure, you know, the great advantage of it to the community of Westford. People come from all, have come for many years to go to Kimball's for ice cream. They go to Neshoba from everywhere and ski programs to ski. But I think there's a difference between town recreation and commercial for-profit recreation things that might crop up.
well, I think both of these ideas, whether it's the Kimball ski area end of it, it's definitely a business venture. All the other areas that we're talking about to put in the zoning, SP, special permit, in a commercial or industrial, those are gonna be for-profit businesses also.
Sure, that's what
I mean, the whole thing, I think, is all for profit. So to your point, Dave, I don't think this is driven by the recreation department because of, it is for-profit ventures.
Right. And we have support from both Kimball's and, attorneys, both
No,
Kimball's and
I understand that,
Neshoba.
but who's gonna promote the district? You know, it's not gonna happen by itself.
No, we would take the, you know, vote from town meeting to allow an overlay district to
Exactly, and
happen.
someone's gonna go up and present it.
I mean, so that would be the town, it'll probably be either me or Jeff, you know, presenting what the proposed change is, to the town, and the town would decide at town meeting whether or not it feels it's appropriate for the town or not.
And I think a lot of it is driven by the planning board. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the planning board is behind a lot of this. Whether it's good, bad, or otherwise.
Well, it does give the town more options, right? I mean,
Yeah. But I still think we have the regulatory authority, if it's under a special permit, if it does happen to get passed, that, you know, it's not gonna go crazy. Hopefully it won't be caught in Burlington or Woburn or wherever. And I think because they are for profit, you're probably gonna be able to limit the size and car trips and everything else.
I would hope.
And you may never see one in the next 20 years either.
Yeah, you're right, I mean, we probably would have looked at parking closer at Millworks.
Yeah.
You know, right, I mean.
Had no idea.
Yeah, but here, we know now, right, so you kinda have to plan for that.
Yeah.
Well, my recollection is, at the time we had that discussion, 2 of the 5 spaces were still leased by Courier.
Mhm.
So the idea was, well, when Courier is done and done, then we'll come back and talk about parking, because we can't reconfigure it until they're finished. And so they finished, but it sort of went away in terms of the reconfiguration.
It's a different, yeah, it's a recreational area now, it used to be Courier.
Yeah, the plans we probably saw probably represented a
And there was
third of
never,
that.
but there was never any what do you want to call it?
Follow up or enforcement.
A plan, no, a development plan for that activity.
Right,
Not that came here.
no.
So that's my concern about the rest of this, is there a development plan that somebody's gonna control and not have
Yeah, yeah.
a de facto, millworks expansion without proper, control and oversight and
Well, like you said,
conditions
we
and
learned-
all those
we
kind of
learned.
things.
We didn't know what was going on, whatever. And we weren't informed when Curry was completely out of there.
I mean, that's an example of a 100% residential area with heavy traffic coming. 100% residential, that mill, and actually, it is 100% residential because the mill facility is now all condos. So it's residents all around there.
But
And the red mill itself is all residents, there's what, 200 condos in there.
But the-
And then there's, 500 cars.
But the courier there, that is zone industrial, I assume.
Yeah, that would be.
Industrial B, so, and there's no recreation zone per se.
There's no overlay district that, today, and that wouldn't be proposed to be in an overlay district. It would, one potential change that could happen is changing it from an N to an SP in the table of principal uses. Yeah, I'm not totally familiar with the permitting history of millworks, but.
Yeah, I can't recall a lot.
There wasn't any.
I know what my eyes see, I don't know what we did, I know what my eyes see. And it's great, I mean, it's more opportunities, but it's certainly not a Westford. I mean, my granddaughter lives in Melrose and has soccer practice every Tuesday night. That's from Melrose to Millworks for an hour of soccer practice. So it's heavily used by people of within 40 miles of here, and then the weekend tournament, people got Muller and New England. And then in the spring, AAU basketball starts up, and that's even more so, because I think they've now got 13, 14 courts there, so you get, that many basketball games going at a time, traffic coming out of there. I want to own the village store when we open, so I start selling bacon and eggs every morning.
It's pretty impressive.
Makes some money.
So I guess let's get back to, let's focus on the ski hill experience. What do we think about that? I think that's the real one that we should really look at, because I think, to put that in an overlay district, because of the multi-zoning areas that they have, might stream the process for them. They both come in front of us, and every single time, they've all produced great things. I mean, really nice stuff. So, I mean, we can't really complain about the quality of what they have promised us and what they're gonna do. They know how to do traffic, they've got ample parking, they've got everything they need there, they got plenty of room for expansion. So I guess the question before you is, are you in favor of an overlay district there or not?
For
Kimball, only Kimball's and
the
show.
Sure, yeah, yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And I think the letters of support from the attorneys, say that out loud.
Okay, Joe, you got that? That was one biggie.
That was one big piece.
Okay.
And,
So,
and then I guess.
do you wanna get into who's gonna be the
We can.
gatekeeper, or?
We can, just very briefly, I'm assuming that the board would be okay with allowing other commercial uses as accessory to, like, a Kimball's or a Neshoba. Again, if they wanted to add a brew pub or something, to their operation, that the board would be able to, under the special permit, be able to review that.
Yes.
Yes.
So again, just by
And-
special
and-
permit, it's not
and
something they can just add,
And perhaps
willy-nilly.
Yeah, as the size and parking and all that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure of that, and then,
Yep.
you can get into, who you would prefer.
So then, the next question is, who do you want to be the granting authority? Do you want it to be the planning board, or would you like to keep it as our?
That's a $64,000 question, I guess.
I'm-
64 million now, I guess.
I'm kind of with Dave. I think that we should be the ones who oversee what goes on in that overlay district.
We have been to, in those two places so far, in Neshoba not so much, but Kimball's in numerous instances.
Exactly.
We work very compatibly with them, and
Right.
like you said, it came out fine, it came out, everything's come out. To a lot of satisfaction, I think, to theirs as well.
So, I mean, that's, do you wanna give up the power, or do you wanna keep the power?
Well, it sounds like it's worked quite well under the current way it's being done, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I will say just the things that we hear from, you know, take it as you will, you know, having it with the planning board would be, you know, because they're likely gonna have site plan review and or a major commercial project. If it triggers one of the thresholds for major commercial project, they're in front of the planning board anyway. So why not make them the special permit granting authority? That's the only argument, you know, we heard for that. So that way it's, you know, one board instead of two. But maybe they're, you know, to your point, this board is familiar with those properties and maybe there's a benefit to having multiple boards looking at something versus one.
I think having multiple boards is a good check and balance system.
yeah, you got two,
Yeah.
couple set of eyes looking at it, yeah, I mean, it's just, you know,
I say keep it as is.
It's good. We appreciate all the input. Thank you.
So that's all you need?
That's what we need.
Okay.
Yes, please.
So why don't you jump off the plank into the millworks? And suggest that should be a sports overlay.
Should be what?
For the Courier building. That should be a sports overlay district.
Well, that's part of that other group, if you want to, oh, I see what you're saying, make it a sports overlay district also.
Yeah, yes.
Oh, included in the commercial?
Well, it would be a test case, so to speak, because that's what it is,
It's
right?
big enough.
It's after the fact, it's after the fact.
Well, that's okay.
So Kimball's and the other place are after the fact too.
So, yeah, the horse is out of the barn on Neshoba,
Yeah.
because all the development, I mean, unless I'm wrong, is done.
But in the show Ski Hill?
Yeah, well, but on the hill itself, and I'm talking about the abutting properties.
I think they own way more than you know.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about where we just put those buildings up on,
Oh, on Powers Road, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
so there's no going that way towards,
No, but when
No,
you
that's
go
gonna
up the
be-
back towards the tubing park and Littleton and all that.
over there,
area out there,
yeah.
There's
No, okay, but
more
that's,
than an acre.
Yeah.
no, I understand what you're saying, but it's land they already have.
Oh, yeah.
They own, yes,
Yeah, oh,
yeah.
yeah.
If we don't get any more snow, they may be selling it.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They may be repurposing that place too,
Global
right?
warming is sort of taking its toll.
Yeah.
I mean, he can't even make it, never mind.
No, that's the problem.
Not this year.
So what do we think about the mills being part of this overlay district?
Is that
We could
factored into the
certainly-
equation here, or is that?
We could.
Would it be a
certainly talk
benefit?
about it.
Would it
Well,
be
there's
getting
no
the
other
benefit?
properties that are there, right?
We could certainly review that, see if there's any benefit to including.
Any benefit to
there.
include that? Is
Why don't you do that to see?
Good
if-
suggestion to research, probably.
Yeah.
My question with that is, I mean, there's no property, you get the building, and you get the parking lot. There's nothing else they can do anywhere.
Well, they could do more stuff inside,
He does it anyways.
yeah.
He's done it, I think, but yeah.
I guess, well, I mean, I'm surprised he didn't put a restaurant or something in there, you know, it's like.
Well, he has permission to do it.
Yeah.
And he does have
He went
a-
to town meeting and.
he has a wine and beer
Legislature,
thing
they do
there
liquor license,
also.
Right,
Yeah.
there's nothing.
So he doesn't need
Why don't you
it?
look into that one, Joe, kind of get yourself up to
That's a
speed
good
on
question,
that.
Dave. There's nothing there, and there's just this minimal services.
Yeah, you can't get any food, really.
In fact, I'm not sure that the facility itself is, the restaurants are antiquated. It's really, I'm shocked. That's another whole story. The Board of Health is doing that. I don't know, what the control is for the number of uses there versus the facilities that are there for the number of people. Hundreds and hundreds of people in some pretty small bathrooms. Very, very, very.
Well, but I mean,
I
if
think a
all-
very big issue. So I don't know, if an overlay district would have some sort of, more control over that. So, wait a minute, because it's a sports facility, is there any sort of review process, inspection, board of health, or, inspectors, or enforcers, or? I'm sure it's all been permitted and reviewed, all that sort of thing, but, does making it a sports overlay district, have it function differently, or is it no change?
I mean, their existing is what their existing is,
They're
right?
existing, they're working, and they're open, and they're doing it,
yeah.
and they're running it.
If they're looking to modify things in the future and or add anything, having it in versus not, we can go, try to figure out, does it make sense to include it?
No,
or
you
not.
mentioned like, say, Michelle wanted to put in a brew pub.
Yeah, just, I don't know if
But
they want to do
easy
that.
No, that's a good example. So say he wants to put in a brew pub in the Millworks, because there's space to do that, and he pursued the license. Would it be easier to kind of have that all in one thing as an overlay district, or would it have to be a bunch of special processes to get a brew pub in, restaurant in the Millworks? I don't know, which would be, is it better one way or the other? That would be my question. If it's more compatible to have that thing working better as an overlay, then, if not, then why bother? I guess that's my question.
Happy to look into that.
All right, the next order of business is filling this board back up. We've included some citizen activity forms in the packet, and I believe that one person, Patricia Rogovine, has withdrawn, correct?
Correct.
So then you have some other ones here to look at. I'm leaning towards Jeff Balcourt, he's a local guy. The other thing that I like about him is the younger guy. We want to get some brown hair back on the board instead of gray hair.
I don't know about the others.
Oh, no, yeah, we got one.
Scott's got plenty.
Yeah, he's got plenty, but,
I don't know about the others, but I think,
well, when you read their little things, they're new in town, they're semi-retired, they're,
and I know Jeff has followed this board for a long time, follows this board as well as many others, he's very involved.
yeah, he is.
Following, and I know he was frequent conversing with Bob Herman over
Yep.
some of the stuff we did or didn't do. I think he's pretty on top of it, and he's got some history as far as the community, there's plenty of history.
He knows the pulse of the town.
He knows the town, he's got both the old and the new, he's working in town a lot. I think he'd be good, I would support him.
Yeah, I would support it too. Probably be a good selection for the board.
So, you want to vote, or you just going to take a general consensus?
So it would be good to have, if the board wanted to make a recommendation to the select board
Right.
for who you want to fill Mr. McMillan's seat, because, he was a full member. So if you're looking at someone to have as a full member who's an alternate, or you're looking at Mr. Valcourt recommend for the full seat, should take a vote one way or the other.
So, let's back up then.
Yeah.
So let's, my suggestion is Dan become a full member. Whoever we bring on become the alternate. And that's pretty typical of how we've done it over the years.
Yep.
We offered it to a long experienced friend down at the end of the table here, and he has decided he's gonna stay as an alternate, so.
Doesn't have the wisdom or the experience.
Yeah.
Unless he stays his mind.
No, we made the phone call today,
Oh,
he's
okay.
very happy where he is.
Oh, okay, all right, then that's.
So he's happy with his situation, as they say.
Someone's gotta be at the end.
The wise old sage has to be the wise old sage.
So I would like to make a motion to make Dan Britko the permanent member to fill out Paul McMillan's seat and recommend that to the Board of Selectmen.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So that's unanimous.
Now, do we need a motion to recommend to the Board of Selectmen?
So now we
Yes,
need
now
a
we have to
make a
recommendation
motion that we recommend the Board of Selectmen appoint Jeff Valcourt.
as the
New
alternate.
member. Oh, new member.
Alternate.
Seat
for the
number
member.
7 then, because that would be Mr. Brickfield's seat.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
You have it. You got it? All right. Was that it? That was it, right? Correspondence updates, you already talked about the trees.
Tomorrow.
So I think that's it. Do we have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.